All right, this is a Rockwell Barbell podcast. This is episode number 29, and I have amateur strongman, Anja Schuffner. Did I say your last name right? Okay, great. Yeah, so you came and did a day pass at Rockwell. Was it about a week or a week and a half ago? Last week. And I wasn't out, but I saw like some of the stories, and posts that you made, which were very nice. So thanks for doing that. And we were just talking, and I think somehow it got brought up, or I maybe saw on your Instagram that you were here to compete at the Arnold's last weekend. And somehow we got to talking, and I realized that you may be coming back to Chicago, and so I suggested to come back through, and we could try to knock this podcast out before you go home. So let's talk a little bit about the Arnold's. And is that the first time you've competed there, or have you competed there prior? Oh, your second time. Okay, awesome. So yeah, just kind of give me a general rundown on how this last weekend went, and maybe a little bit of information about the last Arnold competition that you did, and just want to kind of get your thoughts on both, or progression, or whatever. So
So this year we had a lot more space than last year. Last year was very cramped. It was my first time. I didn't even realize how small the space was for the competition.
okay,
So when we started the competition for the women's last year, the firefighters were still going at the same time. So this year the firefighters were on Friday and Saturday on the main stage, and we started on Saturday and Sunday basically.
okay,
I came 10th. I came with the goal this year to get into the top 10. I just made it into the top 10, basically. I kind of bumped out on the first event. The first event was an overhead gauntlet,
okay.
6 different items within 75 seconds.
Damn, that's
So
fast.
I only managed to lift one, even though during the warm-ups I managed to lift 3 easily. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was just nerves.
Yeah,
The noise. It's very loud at the expo. It's
I could imagine.
really loud. And I was a little bit sad about the first event for sure. Yeah, it was definitely not, it didn't go the way I wanted. So I came
Yeah.
dead last.
Yeah.
I was last out of 19 women at the open class, basically.
Yeah.
And the second event was throwing sandbags.
Gotcha.
2 different weights over 3 different heights. So
Okay.
basically 6 throws. I did 4 out of 6, which I was happy with, came 9th. Then we had a Anderson lever squat.
Okay.
So it's basically a modified Viking press with a kabuki bar, with a transformer bar attached to it. So kabuki basically
All right.
elevated together with them,
Cool.
which was very cool. No, none of us actually tried it before.
Yeah.
You tried kabuki bar here before.
Yeah. And that is kind of the general idea of strongman, from what I understand, is that you, to a degree, know what you're going into, but then there's also going to be, these things that are kind of thrown at random that are a challenge of just overcoming whatever apparatus they put together, and you have to deal with it on the spot. Is that correct?
Pretty
Or
much. So some competitions have mystery events, right? So they only release it like a week or on the day.
oh, okay.
At the Arnold's, we did have a mystery event for day 2, which I didn't make it to because day 2 is only for the top 4.
Okay.
Was sandbag to shoulder. But the nice thing about the kabuki lever Anderson squat thing was they had 2 weight options.
Okay.
So you could go with the higher weight or the lower weight, and the higher weight trumps the lower weight.
I
So-
see. So you would score better if you go to the higher weight.
Exactly.
Okay,
So
got
the
it.
high weight was 290 pounds. I
And-
barely managed 1 rep during my competition prep.
This is the Anderson lever
Yeah,
squat,
exactly.
right? Okay, gotcha.
I did 9 reps in competition. I came 6th, which I was very happy with.
Yeah.
And then the last one was sandbag carry to load to sled drag. So
Okay.
something really fast. And
Yeah.
I'm usually quite good with the moving stuff and things like that.
So on the dynamic side of things is
Yeah.
where you usually excel a little bit
I'm
more.
very good on the dynamic side.
All right, cool.
The static stuff, difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the lever squat, you did 390 for how many reps? 9 reps.
Yeah, I was very surprised.
How did you feel at the end of that set? I
The
mean,
judge was telling me, he was like, 2 more reps. And for me, I was just like trying to do it, but he was trying to tell me to do 10 reps.
mm,
But then at the end, because it was up command and down command,
okay. Interesting. So yeah, so you can't just bang out the reps. You're on sort of their timing to a degree.
So the up command was really hard. So every time you go down, it's a dead stop, and then press up is really, really hard.
Wow.
But it was very cool.
So it's kind of a pause a little bit in the bottom.
100%, like a quote.
That's brutal. Yeah, and I would imagine that getting into that first event, probably put a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. I'm sure it was mixed feelings, like nervousness and sort of like, oh crap, like is the rest of it going to be this way? But I think that's part of competing and just putting yourself in that position where you're kind of like, I'm here no matter what, and that happened, but I'm gonna move on now and do what I need to do. So, so did that kind of set you up for the second event? Were you a little more hungry, or kind of like?
I just told myself I'm here for the experience. I'm just grateful that I can come to the Arnolds. I think I'm the only Asian athlete at the Arnolds.
Oh,
So it's also not very common that we have Arnold qualifiers in Asia. So last year I was there for the experience. This year I was here for the experience. Next time, hopefully for content.
I know what you mean. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So you said that they don't normally have qualifiers for the Arnold in Asia, and they did this year or the year before, I assume too.
Was the first year I qualified through Arnold Spain.
Okay.
I came second there. And then last year I qualified through China's Strongest. So it's a new competition set up, and they have OSG qualifier and Arnold's qualifier.
What was the first one? Arnold Spain. Okay, gotcha. And then there's the China one you were saying. Okay, got ya. So, as far as doing those kind of qualifiers, was that a big hurdle for you to overcome originally going to like an Arnold qualifier, or is that similar to your traditional strongman competition in Asia, would you say?
It's a normal competition, and if you win it, you basically get the invite to the Arnold's and the OSG, which is
So you won those competitions, and that got you in. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. So, so back to the Arnolds this weekend. You kind of gave me a rundown on the events. Were there any other events after that? I know you said there was a dynamic one. Was that the last one, or?
Last one.
Okay.
Day 2 is only for top 4.
Yep.
So they had hammer tire deadlift, which
All right.
I would have been really excited about. It's very cool. It looks really cool. And then they had Dinny stone carries.
Okay.
So it's like a carry, and then they had like stand back to shoulder.
Is that where you're holding onto the handle that's connected to the stone, or is that where?
It's the individual stones, like with different ones, basically.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And they're kind of odd shaped, and I understand. Yeah. So, as far as strongman in Asia goes, we were chatting a little bit, before the podcast, and you mentioned that strongman in Asia is a little bit different than, or is it very different than strongman in the States? And I just kind of want to see if you could explain that a little bit, because
it's not as popular. So I think people growing up in the States, they have a lot of athletic background. You do a lot of sports growing up.
Yeah.
People in Asia, we study, we go to school.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of cliche, but I didn't do any sports growing up. My parents are not athletic.
Yeah.
It's just not as common.
I see.
And then, the beauty standard in Asia is also different. So especially for women, you don't want to be big and strong and muscular.
Yeah.
You want to be very, very small and skinny, because that's supposed to be beautiful. So it's difficult, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure that was kind of maybe it wasn't a hard switch originally, but I could see maybe there being some confusion or maybe misunderstanding, or it's definitely out of the normal mold.
My parents were very confused when I started.
Were they?
Yeah, my mom was like, why I sent them like a video of me pulling a sled and like crawling on the floor, and she's like, I don't understand why you're crawling on the floor. Why do you have to do this? I was like, because it's fun.
Yeah, so it kind of just sort of came from enjoyment, and just I'm sure it just made you feel good to start moving around and start to overcome things that were previously difficult. That's a traditional kind of idea for all of us lifters. And you met Katie when you came in, and Katie's Vietnamese. And the first time that we went to Vietnam together, we met her aunt, who I don't know if she's ever met before. If not, she had probably not seen her since she was 13. So either it's been a long time or maybe ever. But it's the first time I met her. And Katie had been lifting weights here before we went over there. And so when she met her aunt, the first thing she did is she grabbed her on the shoulders, and she was just very concerned about her overall build. And she was like, "You need to be really careful from lifting weights because you're gonna get these blossoming shoulders, and then they're kind of stuck like that." Or she was trying to really scare the shit out of her. You know what I mean? And I kind of get that because I mean, people hear like that a little bit. You know, there's that whole thing like, you know, you don't want to get too big and all that bullshit. But just going over to Vietnam, and it was just like a whole different reason, because like you mentioned, there's like the beauty standard and there's like the ideal look kind of thing, you know?
Like the skinnier you are, the more beautiful and happier you are going to be. It's obviously not true, but
Yeah.
it's just what people go for there.
Yeah. No, it's kind of awesome that you're doing that and you're just driving a stake like right down the middle of that whole philosophy.
I want to show people in Asia and women in Asia, you can be a different size, different shape. You don't have to be the norm.
Yeah.
You know, and it still works.
Of course. And you mentioned that strongman is, you know, not quite as popular in Asia, since you have been doing the Arnolds, since you've been on social media, on Instagram, things like that. Have you noticed a little bit of a shift in some of that mindset or outlook, or have you noticed other women getting involved, or even other women that you know feeling more comfortable, like lifting or pushing their bodies and kind of breaking that mold?
Happening, but slowly. So until last year, we didn't have China's Strongest. So China's Strongest is now, actually, we had Big Z there and Martin Species.
Mm-hmm.
So they,
That's Zavicus? Okay, gotcha. I think I saw a photo of you with them and that, yeah.
and they came over and we had a lot more women join as well because, you know, famous people are coming.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I think also the organizer of China's Strongest, Travis, he's been really trying to push the sport within China because I think China has a big potential in terms of strength sport.
I can see that.
They have a lot of good Olympic weightlifters. They have good
Yeah.
powerlifters. They have a lot of people.
Yeah. There's the population side of it, the ratio. Yeah.
There. It's just the image. I think for men, it's definitely growing.
I can see that.
For
Yeah.
women, it's just still the image of.
Yeah, there's going to be probably more resistance and it'll probably, you know, drag on a little longer. But yeah, and that was the first thought that came to mind is about Chinese weightlifting, you know, and obviously, you know, for a lot of people, that's kind of the gold standard of weightlifting, you know, and then powerlifting has definitely caught on over there as well. And I've done, you know, a fair amount of traveling in Asia, you know, a couple times, I think three times at this point, and I've noticed that powerlifting is starting to pick up over there, you know, even in places where I was there before and it wasn't there at all. And now I'm starting to see better equipment. I'm starting to see some powerlifting gyms pop up. So I feel like the strongman will probably follow suit in the long run, but it'll probably, you know.
I think it'll just take longer, but powerlifting is very popular in Hong Kong, where you have a lot of Asian, you know, powerlifting, I think, is good for the shorter athletes as well.
I can see that, yeah.
You know, and then if you sumo, it's even easier.
Yeah.
So there's the powerlifting community is very big in Hong Kong.
That's good to know.
I think IPF is not that big, but USAPL.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We have, I think, 2 or 3 USAPL competitions a year in Hong Kong.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. And so the gym that you train out of in Hong Kong, is it a strongman gym or is it a powerlifting gym that sort of services strongman, like kind of how we do here? Or I just wanted to get an idea of what your gym's like, just out of, you know, pure curiosity.
I train mainly on my room.
Oh, of your own building?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I live in a 38th floor height building, and during COVID, I built my own outdoor space.
Damn.
So I have a squat rack there.
All right.
For the moving events, I go to different kinds of gyms.
Okay.
Whatever they have, but there's only one strongman gym in Hong Kong.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Strength culture. They do many group classes.
Okay.
Group classes. They also do some powerlifting. They do like HIIT classes.
Gotcha.
Classes.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work in terms of time for me because I have a normal office job. So I work 9 to 6. And, you know, their open gym hours are like 2 to 6.
Gotcha.
So it's really difficult to facilitate what I do.
So what is the office staff that you work with? Do they know about this part of your life? And I bet you they freak out when they see the kind of things that you're doing, or Or coming over to the, different countries like Spain and China and, the United States. And I'm sure they're pretty perplexed by it.
No, they really love it. I work for a medium-sized German logistics company.
Uh,
And my boss's boss, actually, he does a lot of CrossFit and he's really fascinated by strongman stuff. He always wants me to send him videos of my competitions and everything. So they're very, very supportive.
That's great. So I assume they work with you a little bit on the traveling or like the time off or vacation.
I have a lot more vacation days in Asia than in the States.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So is it like double or what?
You have like.
It's been so long that I've worked for another another person or another company. Yeah, I don't think it's 2 weeks.
It's less than 2 weeks, right?
Generally,
I
yeah.
have about 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's a decent amount.
And if you would live in Germany, the minimum is 3 weeks.
Wow.
You have up to 6 weeks.
Dang. Yeah, the United States, I was actually talking to a friend today in the gym because we were just talking. There's just been a lot of, weird kind of colds, flus, strep kind of, crap just around the Midwest area. This. I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Well, so we were talking about that and, we were just kind of talking about how like she mentioned that even if she's sick, she's still expected to do work remotely in the United States, and she's like, I'm almost on my deathbed with the flu, like this isn't like a 2-day thing. She's still pumping out emails and stuff like that. And we just kind of mentioned in passing, no idea that you and I were going to talk about this today. And she was just like, man, I just feel like the United States is different in that respect, where here you're expected to literally work yourself to death on a daily basis until the day you die or can no longer function. So is it a little bit different, would you say, in Asia, like as far as that goes? I know that the work ethic in Asia is a whole nother level, but I feel like the outlook might be a little different on like day-to-day like life with family and all that, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Well,
But
it has changed a lot. So you can just go to the doctor and ask if people will be understanding. I think it depends also what position you're in, that you have to either work or not work.
Yeah.
In Germany, you just go to the doctor and ask for a mental health thing, and then he gives you like a week of sick leave.
It's no big deal. That's interesting. Yeah, we definitely don't have that here. It's like, I feel like if you go there and ask for a mental health thing, they'll put you on like a like a watch notice. Like maybe I need to replace that guy. You know what I mean? But yeah, so you've been to the Arnold's twice. So obviously been in the States twice. Have you been here prior to the Arnold competitions, like before in life, or?
Yeah, I've visited. I've done San Francisco and Yosemite, that whole
awesome.
area. I used to date a guy from Kansas.
Oh.
So I've done.
Yeah, I was gonna say, about all that Midwest shit, and Midwest people.
the what was it called? The flyover zone.
Flyover zone?
Yeah, because nobody stops.
I had actually never heard that term before. Yeah, that's really funny and kind of a bummer at the same time. But yeah, that's great. No, and I realized too, when I was just like watching some of your posts, in the last like week and a half, like, you went to like Nashville, I think, and and I was like, man, she seems pretty comfortable just like rolling around the United States, checking stuff out. I didn't realize you had been here, previously, so that makes sense. But yeah, like, you've been here plenty of times, so it's not like anything is brand new to you. But what would you say like the biggest differences between like the States and Hong Kong? And you said you grew up in Korea originally, right? Like, so I kind of just wanted to get like your outlook on the States and pros and cons, things like that, because like I said, I travel now at this point a decent amount, and I like to kind of compare, and I just wanted to see what you thought about like United States or Chicago or anywhere you've been.
I like Chicago. Chicago is definitely one of the top cities I like in the States. People are very friendly here.
Yeah.
But overall, people in the States are not as friendly as in
Really?
Asia, I think.
Really?
Especially like the service industry.
Ah.
You go to Vietnam or Thailand or somewhere.
Yeah.
If you're like the king when you go there, they treat you well.
Mm-hmm.
Things that really confuse me here is the tipping culture.
Yeah.
Why is it not included?
I have no idea. It really blows my mind when we, get out of the States and go to places and we don't have to tip, and obviously they're probably getting paid, so they don't have to get tips, but just the overall service and the sort of willingness and happiness to like work, just to be working is just constantly there. And it's not fake either, you know. It's like, especially in Vietnam, you know, everyone is so polite and so friendly, and they don't take offense when you need things, you know, like if you need a condiment or if you need a drink getting refilled, you don't get an attitude or a weird look, or you know, they're never frustrated, you know. So I could 100% see that. And then the whole tipping thing is just so weird here. And have you been to any like the coffee shops? Well, I guess I know you went up to Hex down the street, but like if you go to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, or you go to anywhere now, little restaurants, you're expected to tip now on the little digital card reader. Did you see that? Is that
Like you're literally just handing me the coffee. I don't understand why I should be tipping
yeah,
20% for what? For
yeah,
you know?
exactly. And it's really strange because to some degree, there's almost a guilt factor and a shame factor for the person buying the product if you don't tip, because the person's face is right in front of you. And, you
The
know,
person after you standing behind you in the queue, see what you're putting in.
and then,
I felt pressure to tip.
yeah. And they're like, well, I can't put zero if this person put $2. But yeah, it gets really weird. And generally, I am a really good tipper, and I do like to tip people that I feel like are just super nice, or like, I don't know, you know, it made me feel better about my day, and that random interaction, you know, or if it's just like a place where I just know they never get tipped. It's just like a dog shit, you know what I mean? Like restaurant, and people are just probably not polite to them. If I go to like a Taco Bell or something like that, I'm definitely sliding $2 in that little window, you know? But it definitely makes me feel a little bit weird that, you know, there's sort of this like forced tipping and forced, it just makes me feel very uncomfortable. And some people are really chill about it. They'll be like, hey, just press okay, don't worry about it. And then other people will be like, hey, there's this first screen, go ahead and choose an option and then go ahead and sign it. Or,
Sometimes you don't even have the option of no tipping anymore. So
oh, really?
yeah, a few times it gives you like 8 to 20 or 25%
Yeah.
custom. It doesn't
Yeah. That's so
no
sketchy.
tip anymore. And I'm like,
Yeah. So sketchy. I hate it. Well, anyways, rant over on that. But yeah, so you were born in Korea. Where were you born at in Korea? In Seoul. Me and Katie were just in Seoul. Yep. I loved it. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, this is probably atypical to hear from like an American, but we love Korean barbecue. So, but I do like other Korean food too. But yeah, we went to Tokyo, and then we were going to Vietnam after that because Katie has a lot of family there. And I told Katie, I said, we can go to Asia again, but we have to start hitting other places because Vietnam is fantastic. It's like one of my favorite places to go. But I want to start checking off things in the list, you know, just for experiences. And I also want to see, is the place cool enough where I want to go back and spend real time? Like, do I want to spend 2 weeks there or whatever? So we just picked Seoul, and I had no idea what to expect. I figured it would be cool. And I heard good things about it, but I had no idea, did no research, didn't really look at anything online. And as soon as we arrived, you know, there's that long drive from the airport all the way into the city. And I started seeing all the industrial like factories and buildings, and you know, I just started seeing the, you know, bridges, and then I started seeing high rises, and it just started to look like Chicago and New York. And that's when I turned to Katie and I was like, we're in the right spot. You know, I just know it. And then we got deeper into the city, and just the style of clothes everyone wears, like people wear long trench coats there, and it's just, yeah, it's like very like, it kind of reminds me of like 1990s New York or 2000s New York, you know, and everyone drives giant sedans. Like,
because the bigger the car, the more power you have, you know.
yeah, I told Katie that too. And I think she mentioned it on her own, but I mentioned it to her. I said, everyone here has a Mercedes sedan, BMW. I saw a lot of Porsches, and I said I said, it's not just people are nice car fanatics. You know, I'm sure they do like their cars. I'm kind of a car guy myself, especially foreign cars. But it was more of like a movement. You know, it was like you're kind of putting out a message. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the style too, like clothing and kind of, you know, the way you put yourself together. But it was fantastic, and the food was great. Even Korean barbecue was a little bit different. Yeah, for sure. And Yeah, it was great. And we went to, I don't know what the block is, if there's a name for it, but there's like a block where it's kind of like almost a back alley street and it's all these like clubs and bars and like it's like a party area. It's all lit up. How do you say it? Hongdae? Okay. Yeah, it was a blast. And it was right before New Year's. It was not New Year's Eve, but the night before. So people, it was snowing. Yeah, we froze in Korea, yeah. But it was a blast. We're definitely gonna go back at some point. And then we had eventually made our way down to Vietnam and Australia. And yeah, I've actually had that on our list. I think we were gonna try to go there sometime around COVID. And correct me if I'm wrong, but was there some kind of situation there? I know it's still kind of a situation, but there was a situation between China and Hong Kong. And for some reason, we were worried as travelers that there was going to be some type of issue with us getting in or out of Hong Kong because of the relationship between China. Maybe that's what it was. But is there still tension between the two countries as far as ownership goes, or is that like kind of laid to rest temporarily?
Difficult topic. Hong Kong is a special administrative zone, region of China. We have Hong Kong has their own currency. So if sometimes I go to China to change with strongman gym there because I can just take the subway, but I get a stamp in my passport, so I'm leaving and entering a different country.
Interesting.
They always say it's one country, two systems.
One country, two systems. Okay.
Yeah.
What is that? I'm trying to understand it, but what does that mean, or what do they mean by
They
that?
have their own government setup and everything. It's just they just get recommendations from China.
Ah, okay. I see. And then it's kind of one of those things where it's like a strong suggestion to sort of abide by that suggestion or dot dot dot. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and then earlier before the podcast started, we were talking a little bit. Well, I kind of brought up the fact that, strongman, powerlifting, it's strange because on one hand, they're very different, right? We have like three lifts that in competition are always the same, right? And there's, variables that come into play, but, we kind of know what to expect. And obviously, we have a lot of options when we train, outside of meets, we have millions of options of how we're going to train. Strongman, millions of options how you train, but then you have different things that can happen at your competition. But the one thing that I feel like that we really share in common is sort of like the mental side of it. And obviously that could be taken as like, being strong mentally and being able to like withstand and deal with adversity. But the one thing that I wanted to bring up to you and just see what your opinion was is kind of like the lack of like mental stability. Because the powerlifters I know myself, powerlifters in other gyms all over the place, like they're great people. They're really eccentric people. They're awesome. They're fun to be around. But sometimes they can be some of the most wild, on edge, just,
A little bit crazy because we love lifting heavy weights,
Yeah.
It's just, I think, just part of it.
Yeah. And so do you kind of notice that in strongman? I mean, have there been people you've been around where you're sort of like, whoa, like this is normal to me, but I know outside of this situation that this person is not normal. Do you come across that a lot, or is everyone in strongman you met so far been pretty chill?
Normal, you mean? No, I think we're all weird. I think we're all very different, but I also think we're all very special.
Yeah.
Because we just like lifting heavy stuff and we push ourselves to the limits. I mean, strongman, I think powerlifters are very impressive as well, but then strongman, we did the odd-shaped objects.
Yeah.
If you watch the pro show from last weekend, they were deadlifting. I mean, Lucy was deadlifting 666 pounds.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. It's wild.
It's insane.
Yep.
I think it's just, I don't want to say we're stronger. It probably will upset me.
You can say that. It's fine.
Sorry.
We'll get into a full blown argument, right? First podcast.
It's not raw because we're lifting within straps and stuff. But I do think because we are using more equipment, we're able to push our bodies to more limits than in powerlifting.
Sorry, say that again. Because you're using more equipment?
Like we use like an underbelt.
I got you. Okay, I see.
I think there's a limitation to, you can train to how much you can deadlift strapless.
Sure, of course. Yeah, anytime I don't, so it's funny, in powerlifting or in my world, straps are really looked down upon. And like you could have a really good deadlift, right? You could have like fantastic deadlift, best deadlift in the gym, and if you're using straps, people be like, it's fucking shit.
It's like
And
lifting sumo and strongman. It doesn't count. You know? We don't do sumo and strongman. We
oh
only do
shit.
conventional. So it's like it's great at sumo, but it doesn't
Yeah.
count.
And it's kind of similar in powerlifting to a degree where like, you know, people will respect a sumo deadlift, especially if it's really, really heavy. But then like,
Yeah.
yeah, but then even sort of on the down low, like it's like whatever, you know what I mean? But if it's conventional and it's like medium heavy, people are like, yo, that's what's up. Like, that's super funny. Yeah, and so in strongman, you use the underbelt, you guys use straps, and then there's I mean, obviously there's a lot of disadvantages from, you know, you're using inconvenient objects, you know, inconvenient positions, carrying a Husafel is not a nice feeling, I would imagine. You know, I don't train with that thing, but I see a lot of people here do it, and it never looks enjoyable. But I feel like there may be some other advantages where, like, maybe in a meet, someone's not like. Is there someone checking your depth on squats and shit like that, or is that kind of left aside?
The last weekend, the squat depth was by height.
Oh,
So a
word.
certain height.
Interesting.
So for me, it was just parallel.
I see.
I think they had like 4 inches.
Yeah.
Was like the different.
I see. That's wild.
But we do check squat depth.
I'll good to know. You're like, hey man, hold your horses. You're like, don't shit on us about the depth. But yeah, here obviously, like in powerlifting, it's like, it doesn't. You could be 6'3", you could be 5'9", man. It's like that hip has to get below the knee, or it's not happening. But that's kind of interesting to know. And and like I mentioned earlier, we kind of got in touch from you doing a day fee here and training here, and you brought in, or you came in with one of your friends too, right?
She competed last weekend as well.
How did she do with the Arnold?
She came ninth.
Ninth, awesome.
In under under 160, under 140 pounds.
Oh wow.
Small. She's the lightweight.
Gotcha. So you guys both finished top 10.
Yeah, so she lives in Dubai. She already went back, and I'm basically here for a few years longer.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, so the thing that I was going to ask you about Rockwell is I just wanted to see like what your opinion was on our gym. And this isn't like, hey, an opportunity for you to get to like talk my gym up, but I just wanted to see like the style of it, the people, equipment, location, the city vibe, all that. So I just wanted to see what you thought about it and kind of go from there, I guess.
So every time I come to the States, so if I go to a different city, I always try to hit like a powerlifting or strongman gym.
Yeah.
I really like the design of your gym.
Oh, thanks.
With the wall, the bricks, it's really cool. You have all the equipment. People were really friendly. The drop-in was really easy to do. Some gyms, it's only cash, only Venmo. If you're an international person, we don't have Venmo, So that was easy. It was easy just to message you. You replied really quickly, which I really liked. And you have all the strongman equipment as well. You have all the fancy plates.
Oh, yeah.
So the first thing I saw you have the Kabuki deadlift bar. I was like, gotta try that one.
Yeah, we've always been really aggressive about getting equipment. And it's really strange because at this point, in September, it'll be 10 years for Rockwell, which is insane because it's on one hand, it's felt like 10 years. On the other hand, it's really, this is the second location. But on one hand, it also feels like it's been about 3 years because it's went by so fast. Day to day, it seems kind of slow. And then you look back on it and you just don't know how the time passed, I guess that's true with anything that you really like doing, but, yeah, we started off very humble beginnings, like a lot of powerlifting gyms do. Usually most people are not starting off renting out like a 10,000 foot, warehouse unless mom and dad are funding that shit. You know what I mean? But we started actually about a mile north from here, and we got the name Rockwell Barbell from the street that the original location. Yeah. Yeah, one of our dudes just stole that off of a sign one time and brought it in here, or he found it. Yeah. So the original location was Rockwell in Belmont. And, I didn't really want to come up with a corny name. I also didn't want to put my own name on it. I felt like that was weird, hate that shit. And I wanted something that was timeless. I'm like a street sign. I don't know how long it's been here, probably 150 years. I don't know, so it works. It also like rhymes. So, but yeah, so we started there and I went to probably about 10 warehouses to try to rent all of them. And each place I got like an immediate no and a door shoved in my face, like shut in my face. Or, maybe someone would give me a tour of the building and I would start explaining to them what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't understand it. And they're like, well, this isn't made for a gym. And I'm like, it is made for a gym.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't, we're just not going to rent it to you. Or they didn't believe I'd be able to pay the rent, so it was a little bit hard. But eventually I found a place that looked pretty promising in the sense that it looked sketchy. It looked kind of ran down. To me, that's like the ideal environment. Kind of reminds me of like Zavickus. Like, you remember that documentary? I think that was him. He's like, I train here because it's terrible. I don't know if you remember that part or not, but yeah, so same idea. And I knocked on the door and a janitor answered the door. And I said, hey, I'm interested in renting a space here. And I just wanted to see who I could talk to. And he's like, oh, there's nothing available. Upstairs is all just band practice spaces. And downstairs we have this really like awful basement. And I don't think you're interested. And I'm like, I want to see the basement, like for sure. And he's like, I really shouldn't take you down there. I'm like, just take me down there. I won't say anything. I just want to see. We walked down the stairs. It literally looked like he was taking me into like a black hole. And then we got to this door and it was like a vault. It was like a vault door, like a huge door. It was like a foot thick and it was stuck open, like does not move anymore. And he walked me into this basement. It's 5,000 square feet, nothing down there but boxes, freight elevator. And there was 2 coal chutes on the wall that still had coal in them from when they heated the building with coal. And I was like, yo, this is the spot. And he was so confused, because he's like, this dude's on something. I don't know. So anyways, long story short, I got a hold of the landlord and he let me rent 500 square feet in that 5,000 square foot basement because that's all I could afford. And I was like, yo, we'll probably be able to afford this rent for like maybe 3 or 4 months. And then maybe that'll be it. I don't know, and, then we had a couple people find out about it, a couple other people find out about it. And then we honestly just pitched in to try to buy our first barbell. We pitched in to build our first deadlift platform, and 4 months later, we bought a lat pull down together. It was 4 people just pitching in. It was my gym, but I was kind of overseeing it and kind of like running the show. But like everyone was just $100 here and $100 there. And to me, I wouldn't want to have any other beginning, and it was just, yeah. And it just, there's like a certain like trust that's built there because you're putting it together, as a crew, and there's not one person just rolling in and getting a bank loan with like $100,000 and get all this shit. So we did that for a very long time. And then eventually the gym had so many people that we could no longer be down there anymore. And it just, the environment wasn't right. It wasn't good to breathe the air down there. The bathroom was on the 6th floor and most of the time didn't work and there was no door on it. It was just very sketch. So eventually I moved here and we started on this other side where you came in at today. And then we were there for probably 6 or so years. During the pandemic, the tenant that was on this side of the building got kicked out. They did a bunch of stuff and the landlord booted them out. We took it over and we built out this entire space on our own during the entire pandemic. So we took that horrible time in our lives and just tried to be productive with it and just kept our heads down, try not to pay attention to any of that shit and just, thank you. I appreciate it. And in the back here tonight, when we started the podcast, there's a no-gi jiu-jitsu class going on.
Okay. Jiu-jitsu here as well?
Yep, I do jiu-jitsu. I've done it for a long time. Me and another guy run the... Are you? I didn't know you trained jiu-jitsu.
I did during the pandemic and I got 1 strike.
Oh, there you go.
And then I was like, jiu-jitsu, strongman.
Yeah.
You cannot do both. I feel very, for me, if I like something, I'm like 200% in.
Yeah.
So I was like, I really love strongman. I think I have a good chance in jiu-jitsu as well.
Yeah.
So I start.
Yeah. And jiu-jitsu will always be there waiting for you. You know what I mean?
Sometimes roll randomly.
That's cool.
Last time I think was like 3 months ago. I have some friends, they're like purple belts, both brown belts.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went with a friend and he tapped. I was very surprised. Yeah, I
Damn.
made a purple belt tap
Shit.
after having not rolled like after a
I'm a
year.
purple belt, so I'll have to watch out. But yeah, next time you come back to the States, if you're not competing or you're not coming off of a competition, you'll have to take one of our classes back here. The offers on the table. But yeah, so we basically graduated from always pitching in to buy stuff, you know, a very like low level gym, not a lot of options, to coming into here, and that's when it became a legitimate business. I moved my personal training business here.
Yeah.
I started curating other trainers here and helping them build their books and become better trainers. And we still have that relationship today. You know, a lot of them, they do their own thing and they're very good at what they do. But I'm also not afraid to step in and kind of, you know, guide the ship in the right direction when I have to. But now the gym does well enough where, you know, if we want to buy a fourth kilo set, we can shoot to do that 3 months down the road and make it happen. It'll suck for a bit financially, but we can do it. So we've come a long way. We still do pitch in on things like we have to buy a monolift for our competition this summer. We already have one out there, but it weighs as much as a Toyota Corolla does. So if we move it into the other side, it takes about 10, 12 people. And then you won't feel right for like a week. So I had to buy another monolift that is, I think it's like 600 pounds. And, you know, that's something that we'll probably pitch in on. Even though the gym's bought a lot of stuff, we're still not afraid to like take a step back and be like, hey, who wants this? Who has cash for it? Let's get it now. We don't wait for stuff. So it just gives us a lot of choices. I feel like not a lot of gyms are like that. Some are, but we're pretty aggressive about trying to go after things, whether it's the gym or a group of people. So,
I think it's also really nice that when you come into the gym, you don't only have these top level athletes or people who are really good at everything here. You also have beginners. I include my analysis. I saw a few beginners. I really like that you have a mixture of people because sometimes it can be very intimidating going to a new gym and you have like these super strong people.
yeah.
But no, you also have beginners who come here and
Yeah.
are part of your community. And I think it's really great.
Yeah, and you know, I think a lot of places are great. A lot of places, most powerlifting, strongman, any weird kind of gym, most people just want other people to be in there training with them. But you do have people or certain places that they really get off on gatekeeping and making people feel like I'm up here and you're down there, and I'm going to make you know it until you've proven otherwise. And I don't fuck with that. You know, I come from a punk metal background. And our ethos back then, which are still my ethos now, is that like everyone's equal. And as long as you're busting your ass and you're putting the work in and you show up, that's cool. That's it. There's no like, you know, and before you know it, those people that are new aren't so new anymore. And then they eventually do things that are pretty impressive. And then before you know it, you have an equal training partner, you know. Same thing in jujitsu, same mantra back there. Actually, if you want to know where that stemmed from, on a business standpoint, when I was training at a private training studio in another neighborhood, and I had started Rockwell, I had realized that I no longer wanted to be at a swanky private training studio. I didn't really belong there. My clients, they were okay with it, but they didn't love it. And I had them start coming to my weird gym and they really liked it. And so I said, you know, what would happen if I mixed my weird friends together and all these powerlifters, psychopaths, and all these nice people that just want to be healthy and want to be in shape and take care of themselves? I was like, we'll see. It could be horrible. It could be awesome. And it turned out is that like all the people that lift hard respect my clients that are 65 years old, that have injuries or maybe just start training at age 50. And it became this beautiful thing, you know, and now like I'll see people fist bumping each other and they're from totally different walks of life, you know, and there's this mutual understanding. It's like, hey, you had the balls to come into this gym and you deserve to be here just as much as I do. So it's really cool that you notice that. And I think that's something that will probably always have to be a part of this gym, you know. I don't think I'd have it any other way. So yeah. And then the other thing I want to ask you too, is kind of like, what's next for you in strongman? So, you know, you finished top 10 at the Arnolds. Like, kind of what is your plan now going back home? Do you have like an off season like we do? How are you going to train? Is there another competition that you're gearing up for down the road? Or are you just kind of focusing on like the other part of your life for now? I just want to kind of see like where you're headed, once you head out of Chicago.
The initial plan was I'll take off training for a month or two and just do some jujitsu.
Ah, all right.
That was the initial plan. But since I did so badly on the first event, so basically overhead's always been my weakness.
All right.
And I actually just spoken to my coach. I said, I do want to come back to the Arnolds. I think I can qualify to come back, but I only want to I only want to come back if I can log press 220 pounds. That's like, if I can do that for 2 reps,
Gotcha.
I think I'll be a really good athlete and I'll be a good contender for.
You'll consider yourself more well-rounded, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if my overhead just needs to, be there, and it's just going to take some time.
Yeah.
So I've been in competition prep since last year, August. I won competition after another. So
it's a long time.
Yeah, so definitely going into off-season now, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of competitions coming up in Asia, and most of them I'd just be there for judging.
Gotcha.
I want to be part of the community. I also want to help the community.
Yeah.
But the only one I agreed on doing is China's Strongest, and that's in November. So
as far as competition goes. Okay. Have you judged before for strongman, or is this like a newer endeavor for you?
It was in Thailand 3 weeks ago.
Oh.
The Thailand Strongest Man did some judging there.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah. It is. And it's strangely exhausting in the way where you are there for a period of time and you can't have a second where you're off or not paying attention. And you can't have a moment where you're just like, like trailing off your thoughts or like checking your phone. It's just like on 100.
You were saying your event,
yeah,
you were left. But as the judge, was just me and another guy. So we were there from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. all day.
Damn, you guys had no rotation, huh? Shit.
Comedy rotation. I was exhausted by the end of the day. And I have like newfound respect for organizers.
Yeah.
Because it's so difficult to just manage everybody and all the athletes. And I also didn't know it's so hard to be a judge. So definitely newfound respect for a lot.
Yeah, it's tough. A long time ago, I wouldn't say it was like, it was definitely not pre-federations because federations have been around forever, but it was pre some of the more prominent powerlifting federations. So before those kind of were around, there was a lot more backyard meets. There was a lot more unsanctioned meets. And I judged a handful of those just because there was no one else, right? And it was pretty fun for the most part, but it wasn't very stringent. There wasn't a rule book. You didn't have to go through any checkpoints to become a referee. So recently I became a referee for the WRPF and judged my first, actually I did a practical meet in Iowa, but I judged my first meet here about 3 weeks ago. And very, very different when there's a rule book to follow and there's a standard to follow. The other judges are, in essence, sort of judging you too, because, a good judge is not going to let another judge make terrible calls for 2 flights and not say something, So you have to be very on for the athletes, but then you also be very on for yourself and other fellow judges. And I really liked it. It was very interesting for me. I feel like it also makes you a better coach. And also a better lifter because the mechanics as a lifter you're supposed to have to lift the weight, right? But when you know what the judges are looking for in and out, I feel like it almost makes your mechanics improve because you're going to try not to allow things that won't be acceptable in competition acceptable in your own training day to day. If you can, it's hard to do, but that's really cool that you're getting into judging. And, I feel like it's a nice thing to keep immersing yourself into sort of like the industry if you can, just because you're not just taking advantage of it as a lifter. You're putting the time in, you're volunteering. Same thing like for spotters and loaders. I don't know I'm assuming you guys have those for strongman events. Like massive respect to people who do that because it's
so when I was judging, I was also moving weights with the people with the spotters, because they're all small little Thai people, after the second event they were all like shocked about how heavy everything is. So it's basically me and the other judge who are also strongman, and we're just like pushing everything and pulling everything, and it's like hot outside, but definitely mad respect for loaders.
Yeah, it's huge if you can try to help too. You don't have to. You can just sit there, chill in the chair. But if you can get up and just try to help people, and
it's not chilling in the chair. You're like walking, taking the time.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Yeah,
it's standing all day.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Not just sitting. Okay.
It does seem a little lazy, still chilling in the chair all day, right? But yeah, thanks for being on the podcast. And do you have a coach that that does your training, or do you?
Bradley, she's Europe's strongest woman.
Okay, awesome. So people can look her up online and
She's a
on.
good coach. She's a very, very good coach.
All right, good to know. I'll check her out, and I'll tag you, obviously, in the podcast when it comes out. And down the road, I would love to have you back on the podcast, even if that's over video on the internet, or if you're back in the States, we can obviously have you back on. It would be fantastic. And I really appreciate you coming back to Chicago to make this happen. Yeah, and everyone check out eternalnutrition.com. It's EAT nutrition.com. It's a great supplement company. It's a friend of mine. Very good product, healthy for your body. And I'm looking forward to doing more podcasts down the road. So thanks. Yeah. All right, that's it.